All right, one of you guys is going to need to call a plumber because 4chan is leaking again. It's not more eggs and Nordic aliens in Antarctica this time, though. It is something to do with the infamous 4chan leak from about a year ago where we had an insider blowing the whistle on USOs and what he called the Mobile Construction Unit. And that is this famous thread here, which is basically about an enormous structure that had been clocked on multiple sensor systems that moves intelligently around the ocean and allegedly just annihilates anything that gets too close to it in the blink of an eye. And allegedly, this mobile construction unit is the source of these orbs, these UFOs that all seem to be coming out of the ocean. And that is what today's 4chan leak is about. By the way, my name is Josh. Welcome to Polarity. If you struggle to keep up with the pace of everything that is going on in the world of UFOs, non-human intelligence, and the paranormal, make sure you subscribe because I'll make sure you get the best bits right here. Now, today's video is a big read through, and there are some very interesting comments from this anonymous poster, especially when we consider this initial or original 4chan thread here, but also when we consider this 4chan read through.
From 2012 to 2023, I worked in naval intelligence, focusing on advanced underwater detection systems as part of an unidentified submerged phenomena program.
That's right, the quantum radar sonar leak that we read through earlier this year, it all ties together. There's some crazy stuff going on at the bottom of the ocean. So let's go into this with an open mind, a pinch of salt for good measure as always. And by the way, I record all of my shows in one hit. So if we stumble along the way, forgive me, but we don't do retakes here. Now, the responses on the original 4chan thread were quite messy. I'll make sure I leave a link to the thread in the video description below. But this user on Reddit, Live Photosynthesis, basically compiled all of the worthwhile reading answers into one thread. So shout out to him for putting this together. I'm going to read it all through for you, but anything that's relevant to this, I'll make sure I link it in the description below. So let's just get straight into it. So this is, whenever you see OP, that stands for original post or original poster. And this is basically the opening post of this thread. I'm taking a big risk by posting this. And honestly, I'm already uneasy about putting any of it out there. I was part of a fast attack crew stationed in the Atlantic in the early 2000s. I won't say which boat. That's the one thing that I won't reveal. If you do a little digging, fast attack deployment, sonar anomalies that got lost in paperwork, you'll figure it out. It's not that well hidden if you know where to look. What we made contact with wasn't a whale, wasn't a known submarine, and wasn't something you could explain away. It moved in ways that shouldn't be physically possible, and it responded to us. After the event, teams we didn't recognize took over. Different protocols, different rules. Our official reports don't match what actually happened. There's something under the ocean, something constructed, something we aren't supposed to know about. And no, before you ask, the clowns like Elizondo are not telling you the truth. You really think an active government agent gets to go on cable news and spill secrets with a wink and a smile? Meanwhile, the only place someone like me can speak anonymously on a dying 4chan thread. Think about that. Most of the whistleblowers they parade around are controlled leaks, distractions meant to keep you staring at the sky while ignoring what's beneath you. The only one who's been close to the truth was that guy who posted about the underwater UAP fabrication site. He didn't know everything, but he wasn't making it up. He's referring to the old 4chan leak. I'll answer what I can here. I have to be careful, but if you ask the right questions, I'll give you what I'm allowed to say without crossing certain lines. I'm only responding to replies that start with the boat's initials. If you can't connect the dots, you're not ready to hear the rest anyway. So this guy's basically saying you need to do a bit of digging before I'm going to answer your questions. So this is an anonymous user. So basically on 4chan, when you post, you're anonymous. So this is not the original poster. This is someone else sending him a message. So the messages with arrows in front of them are basically him quoting part of something the original poster said. But what this user said, I submitted almost 10 different FOIA requests looking for information on this very subject, got shut down. I was looking for information on the USS Scorpion that allegedly engaged this very same entity in the 60s near Cuba. A nuke was dropped there too. There was actually 6 different attack subs lost that year. I think the various nations were trying to either eliminate it or there was a pissing contest of sort that did not go well. And just like in the original 4chan thread, it's interesting that a lot of this stuff seems to take place almost exactly where the Bermuda Triangle is, which is famous for things going missing. Now we're back to the original poster. I wasn't planning on replying unless someone showed me that they were close. You're at least asking the right types of questions, so I'll make an exception. First off, no, this isn't the USO Tom DeLonge talks about. He's been fed watered down, pre-approved scraps, even enough to keep him chasing without ever getting close. The Abyss is loosely inspired by real rumors, but what we dealt with was nothing like Cameron's glowing deep-sea aliens. It was cold, mechanical, and purposeful. The USS Scorpion incident you're referencing, different situation entirely. It had to do with Cold War encounters, maybe a different unknown, maybe a human mistake, but not the same contact. I'll give you credit. You're right that multiple nations have had underwater encounters. You're also right that it caused some major escalations that got buried in the noise. The difference is, what we tracked wasn't a one-off. It matched exactly what the 4chan underwater fabrication link hinted at. A system deploying customized craft, not organic beings and not accidents. Good instincts, but you need to separate the events if you really want to see the pattern. So then this poster wrote, I will return to this tomorrow. I'm tired. There'd already been a bunch of comments. Nobody has come close yet, and honestly, that is probably a good thing. I would hate to spread real information amongst morons, excluding the one guy who was close. You know who you are. If you are serious, use the time to actually connect the dots instead of parroting what TV and pop UFO grifters feed you. The info is not classified and available if you know where to look instead of listening to grandiose claims from idiots. So this is one thing that's interesting that I always find about these 4chan leaks is that they're very, I don't want to say aggressive, but like they always seem like they're not there to mess around, which I don't know if you want to take that as the common behavior from someone posting on 4chan, or maybe it's because they are serious and they don't want time wasters. I don't know. It depends which way you're coming at that. Next day, I appreciate the effort. And again, I'll just quickly say that because this is basically all of the responses put together, sometimes you're not going to know the question that this person is replying to. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter because the important part is what he's saying and the information that we're getting in the responses. So sometimes if things seem a little disjointed, that's why. I appreciate the effort. The reasoning is in the post. I'm not here to waste time with anyone who cannot discern real from fake. That being said, I do recognize effort when I see it. If you are using AI to dig, I recommend simplifying your queries. Anything involving MH370 is laughable. That was an aircraft. I stated clearly I worked on a sub. If you are bringing up aircraft when the context is sonar and submerged contact, you are already disqualifying yourself. It is these types of engagements that gave me the idea of how to filter out the noise. Who is guessing for attention and who is actually paying attention? And yes, I'm well aware that once one person figures it out, everyone else will repeat it. I'm counting on that. Because if enough people are saying the same name on the same sub, the right people might start paying attention. Call it raising awareness in the only way I still can. Just knowing I'm paying attention to this thread. Just know I'm paying attention to this thread. And yes, I'm very aware that once one person finds it, everyone will copy it. But if everyone is saying the same name of the sub, I'd tend to think the right people may get their eyes on the situation. Call it raising awareness. That's interesting. It's almost like he wrote out the first part and then rewrote it again and forgot to delete it from before. Interesting. Again, this person seems like they really don't want to talk to people who are wasting their time. But the language that's used, the tone, it's for someone who wants attention, for someone who's coming on here and LARPing and just making up a story for no reason. First of all, the language that's being used doesn't seem to fit that, but you know, anyone could be a good storyteller. But generally, someone who wants attention is just going to be spilling beans, throwing things out there, trying to trick people. The way this is coming across is like forcing people to do some research before he'll say anything, which, you know, doesn't prove that it's true, but it's interesting. So here we go. Anonymous user comes through with the goods. Is it USS Hampton? I was looking shit up and it was a weird incident report attached to it, which is corroborated by a guy named Bob McGuire, a scientist. The report is heavily redacted. The mission had to be classified because I can't find pictures, videos, sonar, or radar anywhere, and I'm great at finding things. There's also a conflicting report about how many subs went out that day. Some say just USS Hampton, and some say another sub was also there. If I'm right, I have two questions. Was USS Hampton the only sub out there that day? 2. Was there clear footage grabbed? That would explain the heavy redaction and classification, even with an incident report. Bonus question. How did it start? You are the first to actually find it. Congratulations. I will answer within limits. Was USS Hampton the only sub out there that day? No. There were 3 platforms initially tasked. 2 are on the public record if you dig hard enough. The 3rd is not, and you will not find it listed anywhere official. That 3rd vessel disappeared without warning. No emergency signals, no acoustic collapse signature. It was simply gone. Now, in the original 4chan Whistleblower thread, he talks about that. He doesn't name vessels. There's nothing to confirm that this is the same incident, but in the original thread, that person talked about how a vessel was just gone in the blink of an eye. Like, not even enough time to radio in that they were in trouble. It's like they were just gone. What made the situation even worse was that the instrument showed immediately afterwards. The sonar returns were so extreme that most of the crew believed at first that the systems were malfunctioning. The mass detected was beyond anything expected. The disappearance of the 3rd vessel combined with the sheer size of what was showing on sonar created total confusion for a brief window. That confusion is why the reports conflict and why the operation went silent so quickly. Was there clear footage grabbed? Yes. Multiple internal angles, passive acoustic recordings, kinematic patterns impossible to match with any known propulsion technology. No friendly identification codes, no logical explanations. The material is clear enough that anyone familiar with undersea tracking would know immediately that they were witnessing something outside human capability. Bonus, how did it start? It started the moment Command realized the 3rd vessel was no longer present on instruments or communications. Passive sonar then picked up a massive disturbance. Something was moving deep and moving intelligently. We adjusted our tracking and the object reacted immediately. It knew we were there. It shifted speed and depth faster than anything we have ever classified. It never broke aggressive, but it made it very clear that it was aware of our attempts to follow. After that moment, everything went up the chain and out of our hands. Thank you for being fact-oriented and not a moron. So much unnecessary shade being thrown. Anonymous user, are you claiming to know more than the original 4chan Whistleblower? No. That was a one-off that will never happen again. He was on retrieval, I was on a boat. Context matters. Interesting, right? With the old 4chan thread, if you guys haven't heard that or you don't know it, because I know there's a lot of people who probably don't know this stuff, let me know in the comments if you'd like me to do a read-through. It's obviously not new, it's not current events, but it's a great thread and it's something that I would like to have on the channel just for like documentation purposes, but it is long. So if you guys want to see it, I'll do it. But let me know because it's probably going to be like a 2-part thing because it's a big one. OP says, you're right to call it typical. That is because it is. The playbook never changes. Redact, confuse, bury the truth in noise. We all just saw another UAP-related FOIA request denied with no explanation. They can say footage doesn't exist, even when internal logs confirm otherwise. No responsive documents. That's how it works. You are not getting an image, but sonar. Maybe if you ask the right way. Try requesting radar or sonar malfunctions from Atlantic fast attack platforms between 2001 and 2005. Frame it as equipment behavior. The data was recorded, every ping. Everyone who was there saw it, but it's the 3rd missing boat that keeps people quiet. It was in position when the object moved, almost like it got too close. Air anomalies are not my area. I stay in my lane. The task force, a PR front. They talk around the real event, the most documented underwater contact on record, and they ignore it. Bob McGuire has spoken on it, yes, but his lab was isolated. He was not at the station when it happened. He got what they gave him, not the raw feed. As for what we see, imagine sitting beside a mountain. Then the mountain moves, not slowly, with intent. Just before that, the ocean went silent. No current, no displacement, no hum, just pressure and stillness. the kind of silence that warns you. When it appeared, sonar picked it up. Solid mass, structured return, but wrong. No propulsion, no wake, just movement. And the way it moved, not like it was trying to get away, like it was aware we were watching. We did not detect it, it let us see it. Extremely ominous. And I'll just quickly say as well, obviously these images here are AI generated, but the way I've done it is kind of cool. And I probably should have said this at the start. Basically, I fed the original post of this thread into AI. And then I said, I want to give you a task. I'm going to get you to generate an image for every post. So these images are generated purely based off of the context of the original post and then using the response as a prompt. And this is what it's coming out with. I had to maybe tweak just like a couple of them because they kind of returned like really weird. But I didn't really touch most of them. So it's a pretty interesting thing to check out as we go. OP. Yeah, I've heard that one. The idea that tapping the hull would show there's life inside so the thing wouldn't destroy us. These are the thoughts of the people I'm trying to ignore. Imagine everything I've described. Trench silence, a mass that moves like it owns the water around it. And someone thinks, now's the time to touch the hull and say hi. Really think about that. Nobody touched the hull. This thing didn't need a knock to know we were in there. It already knew, and it didn't care. OP again. I've been painfully consistent about staying grounded in facts, sonar, logged events, first-hand accounts. I've told people to read, to verify, to follow the data. And your reply is a link talking about USOs off the coast of California. Let me ask you a real tough one. Is California near the Atlantic Ocean? Then you follow that up with a YouTube video of a guy drawing doodles under the title of remote viewing, which might be the most unintentionally hilarious thing I've seen today. That stuff belongs in a psychic hotline commercial, not in conversation about military incidents involving lost submarines. This right here, this scattershot, coast-swapped, new age flavor homework is exactly why disinformation works. Flood the topic with enough garbage and people stop being able to tell the signal from the static. If you want to chase flashing lights in the sky, be my guest. I'll keep talking about what's in the water, where it actually happened. Again, this is what I mean. Like, there's so much unnecessary shade being thrown here by the OP, and maybe he's just like a jaded old military dude who's sick of being silent. Who knows if it's real? But I always find it strange when people have a go at people who are trying to understand something. Now, again, we don't have the original question, but, you know, basically attacking someone for like believing in remote viewing, believing in UFOs, when you're also talking about something that's kind of just as fantastic and in the same breath acknowledging how much disinformation there is and even name dropping people like Lou Elizondo. It's like you should at least then have the understanding and awareness that people who aren't in your position, people who don't go out on submarines and see massive construction units, they're not going to have the same knowledge as you. So like coming out with this like aggressive tone and attacking people for it is just a little bit unnecessary, I think. OP. Numbers would be estimates at best. We didn't have time to break out calculators mid-panic. All I can tell you is what the instruments told us, and what they told us didn't make sense. Imagine watching a cliff wall on sonar that you know has been there the whole patrol. Then suddenly, it slides sideways, like it's checking to see if you're still looking. Not fast enough to be aggressive, just fast enough to say, I'm not hiding from you, I'm ahead of you. As for finding it or being found by it, the Hampton was on an oceanographic survey and surveillance mission. That's public record. We were out there doing recon, standard patrol, no weapons hot, no drama, we weren't looking for trouble, but we were somewhere we probably shouldn't have been, and we weren't alone. And let's not gloss over what no one seems to talk about. We are discussing a nuclear-powered attack submarine, one of the most advanced machines humanity has ever built, and something out there flipped it off like a light switch. That's not a sensor blip, that's not a software fault, that's a message. You want to bait that into the air? Really think about that. We were sitting inside one of the most advanced submarines on Earth and it made another one vanish. No distress call, no fallback, no trace. You think scrambling jets at its next move? How do you think that plays out? That is probably why we haven't tried to engage. Not directly. It's not disrupting trade routes. It's not surfacing. It's just down there, watching, moving, waiting. So creepy. Do I know what it wants? Not even close. I was there to do a job. I wasn't briefed on any mythology. I was collecting data, and then the data started collecting us. All I know is this: whatever that was, trying to take it on would likely be the worst strategic idea in history of modern warfare. And everyone who saw what I saw knows it. This is what we encountered. That is what we encountered that day. So this is an anonymous user now, so this isn't the OP. So again, he's just sort of quoting something, and then he says, "Smag turned spook here. OP knows what that would mean, and I am the only one who made the raiding shift. Here's the deal, man. Think of your premises. Not supposed to be down there. What exactly do you mean by that? And I ask in the most professionally analytic way. Suppose you were to walk up on a gunned out meathead with 3 of his squad with him, mean mugging your ass. Would you walk up and say, hey guys, you aren't supposed to be here? You are now dead because of that. Therefore, they are very much supposed to be there. Sheer force of will alone, nothing more. Secondly, dangerous as shit. To whom? Military assets of any kind are to be viewed as hostiles. That is our policy. Their generosity to reciprocate our military philosophy is a positive. Covered up? No, not at all. It's all just a faint signal in an ocean of postmodernist bullshit full of dumb meat bags and stealing from each other. Sorry, I'm trying not to swear on the channel as much anymore. Why is it that their actions should be viewed in the negative whatsoever? I say they are absolutely correct in their behavior. They belong there. It is their territory and domain. We have no claim to it. We have no right to residence to it. And our behavior in our own lands forfeits our right to even complain about whatever operations they have going on. That's so true, to be fair. I know a lot about it, but nothing useful to anyone and nothing more than anyone else. What I do want to do, and always mentioned it in conversation before, was to send out a wooden sailing boat with 0 electronics, short a sonar transducer, and say hello. The sonar nets and satellites will confirm the encounter, and they will just have to trust what I say during the debrief. No electronics, no camera, no records of any kind. Just an old spook with nothing else going on in life. I'll go out and say hi or get vaporized. So this guy's willing to put himself forward as a sacrifice. Let's continue. This is a different anonymous user comment now. I'm too much of a goof anyway, and I like drugs. LMAO. Sorry, that was a reply quote. Hey, it's me, the other bubblehead in the thread. There is a small group of highly religious spooks who believe that this entity has interacted previously with humanity. It is, in their view, biblical Leviathan. I find it fitting, at least, got this info from a campfire drunk fest at the Kabul embassy once. The sober view is that when these entities were seen before, and the USO was closer to the surface and near beaches, villages, etc., and visible from sailing ships, people started inventing conversations with it and attributing it to their local god as one of his giants, like Poseidon's snakes or whatever. Anywho, the moral of the story is this, and big if it is biblical is this. If and big if it is biblical Leviathan, then maybe be polite to it and not get our hair on fire yet. Besides, it seems like a very interesting entity to have a conversation with, and I wholeheartedly invite the glowies reading all I wrote to swing by and offer me the job of taking a skiff out to the entity, dropping a sonar transducer, and talking to it. Fuck it, someone's got to do it. Okay, so I think that was actually the same guy as before. That's the hard thing about 4chan, is it's hard to kind of gauge who's who. But again, this guy is kind of saying that that whatever this mobile construction unit is kind of the inspiration for a lot of lore, I guess, like Loch Ness Monster, you know, big sea creatures. He's kind of alluding to the fact that it's all spawned from this, and this has been around for a long time. Back to the OP now. I've stayed extremely fact-based. Sonar data, vessel classification, recorded mission type, and real consequences. And now you are talking about celestial craft maintained by some kind of planetary maintenance fleet, linking it to your body temperature and CRT monitors. Really think about what you're saying. You're trying to mix Earth's environmental collapse, auditory hallucinations, UAPs, and a Trello board like it is all part of the same briefing. That is next level insane when you stack it next to the hard facts of nuclear-powered submarines being shut down like a toy and another platform vanishing without a trace. This is not about tribes or resistance cells. It is about what actually happened to trained professionals on a live mission. This kind of metaphysical noise is exactly how people lose the plot. You are not decoding anything. You are muddying everything. Keep your performance art somewhere else. This thread is for people who want to understand what we actually encountered. So again, this guy has absolutely zero time for anyone. He's got zero time for the woo, okay? He'd probably hate this channel. He really wants to stick to facts, and I think that is very typical of someone who is like military minded. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like if you are in the military, that's probably a very good approach. But that doesn't mean, you know, metaphysical, the woo doesn't mean there's nothing to it. That is just the perspective of someone in this person's alleged position. Continued with the OP. I've stayed What? Did we just do the same? We did do the same. Okay. That's fine. We'll keep rolling. Hey, let's take this time to invite you to our Discord. If you're enjoying this so far, you'll probably have a really good time in our Discord. It's an open community. We're active 24/7. The link is in the description. We've got channels, and we'll probably be continuing this conversation there like we do with every video. So I just wanted to slip that in. You're all welcome, and it's free. Continuing on with the OP now. The platform that went missing was an experimental fast attack sub, customized by Lockheed Martin with exotic materials. It was not built by them, but they had their hands in the systems, stuff most of us had only seen in theory. We were told it was safe. As for how high my access went, enough to be trusted, enough to know what not to ask. That's something that all of these like whistleblowers say. It's like at a certain point, you know not what to say. You know what you shouldn't ask, which is weird. I was never in the vaults at Groom or Area 51, but I was close enough to hear what floated out. It shows up everywhere, but the Pacific. That much is consistent. Tracking it is not. Sometimes it shows up for minutes, sometimes it lingers. Most nations never get close. When they do, a few might quietly converge on the area. No weapons out, just observation. That alone should tell you something. And that tracks with like so much of the whistleblower stuff we've heard, not even from 4chan. But about people, well, I mean, Matthew Brown just this week talking about America surveilling Russia, who seem to be surveilling or connecting with UAP out in the ocean. Other countries have probably lost things too. No one says it directly, but the silence between nations when it shows up is louder than anything. You can feel the shared hands-off policy. The rumor that makes the most sense is the exotic material on the missing sub may have triggered something. No impact, no distress call, just gone. We were close, too close. The object did not find the sub. It may have reacted to it. We were not supposed to be there, and we were not supposed to be carrying what we had. That's interesting because he doesn't really expand on what that means. What did they have that they weren't meant to? I clearly mentioned that they were not the same class platform. One was a standard US Navy nuclear fast attack. The other was an experimental platform, customized by Lockheed with non-standard systems and materials. Side note, and I should not have to keep repeating this, I have a very specific way of responding. If it does not follow the pattern, it is not me. The post you are talking about broke that pattern if you look closely. So he's just referring there because on 4chan, you're anonymous. It's kind of hard to tell who's who, and perhaps some people were imitating him. If you actually read what was written instead of stumbling in with half a question, so aggressive. You would see I already said it was made by the government and customized by Lockheed, not built by them, customized. This is a very clear difference and I made it twice already. This is exactly the kind of lazy noise I've been trying to avoid. Scroll up, read. It's not hard. You cannot just show up and expect to be spoon-fed answers that were already given. If you cannot do the basic work, you are not ready for the deeper parts of this. Simple as that. It's a great point. Fair play, but just so aggressive. Okay, this AI image was probably my favorite. I don't know how it came to what it did, but, you know, gotta let the AI do its thing. Gotta let it express itself. OP. TD65 is typically locked in the vertical position during rig for dive. If you know what that means, you already understand it is not a detail I would throw around lightly if I was not familiar with the layout. Now, with that out of the way, if you seriously believe I'm talking about a standard documented vessel with the layout you just rattled off from memory or a manual, then we are not having the same conversation. I clearly said it was not a listed platform. You are walking through a known configuration and asking me where the secret is hidden in it. That is like asking where the extra room in a house you never built. That's pretty funny. If you cannot differentiate between a fully mapped open source fleet design and a customized classified test platform, then I cannot help you. Adding a new floor above or below is not impossible, not in a custom hull, not where the entire thing is built under a different standard with different mission parameters and a different level of oversight. You are assuming the blueprint you know is the one that was followed. It was not. You are smoking in ASW Bay. I was watching something crawl across the trench wall that made an entire section of trained men forget what silence was. So unless you are ready to discuss things that were not in the manual, save the attitude. So much sass. So anonymous user now, this isn't the OP. This person says, cool, butt sniffing protocols complete. Now we can be bubble-headed pricks together. I feel like this is the guy from before. My hang up is this. You roll up on an entity like that with the history of behavior that we do, we deserve it. However, to attribute the behavior of that entity based on the construction of the platform is unwarranted. My basis is this. It does not attack merchant shipping, even the ones which we load up with ISR packages in a shipping container. The same neutrino tomography assets on the new boats are being ran by all the other countries in addition to our own. Furthermore, the reactor itself is a blindingly bright neutrino source, not only within the immediate vicinity, but as a fact of tracking with the Nomad satellites and similar. That didn't make a lot of sense, but that is, I'm just reading it word for word here. That is not a good way to approach and say hello, especially when that vessel is manned by a bunch of dipshit animals from the perspective of the entity. On the basis that this entity limits its behavior commensurate with its surrounding implies a degree of intelligence. And if we are to measure the overall tech capability of it, it knows every move we make at all times of any significant assets, and saw your platform being built through its own intel collection capability, in addition to it leaving port and creeping up on it. We are not in a petri dish, but the petri dish. We didn't speak up on eyes of the microscope, metaphorically. So we didn't sneak up on the eyes in the microscope, metaphorically. It speaks our languages fluently. It knows our history better than we do. We have no standing to argue or have a problem with anything it does. The best we can do is approach in a dignified way, say hello, and move on. It's a pretty interesting point, and I think I kind of agree. If you even are going to try and approach this thing, like I would say, is it even necessary? Okay, if it's making submarines vanish, do we want it? Like, why do we have to go and approach that? Can we just leave it alone? I feel like that's probably a good idea. Continued. This is EOP now, and he's replying to this person, I believe. Exactly. And if you'd been paying attention, you would know that I never said they were killed, not once. Okay, sorry, he's not replying to that person. I said they vanished. I said they went missing. I said they ceased to exist. I said there was a total systems loss with no distress call and no return. I said they were gone. That is very different from saying they were confirmed dead. You want bodies and a hull. So do we. But when a platform goes silent mid-patrol with classified materials on board in direct proximity to an unknown presence and is never seen again, we do not need to guess what category that falls under. You want to call it MIA. Fine. But do not pretend I said otherwise. Every word I have used has been deliberate. You clearly have not been listening. I have said more than once, it is mobile. It does not sit in one place waiting for your microphone and good intentions. It moves, it watches. Sometimes it lets you see it. Most of the time, it does not. Okay, so I think he's replying now to the person from earlier who was volunteering themselves to go and talk to it. But sure, go ahead. Ask someone to sit right above the spot where a sub might have been vaporized. Tell them to dip a mic in the water and say hello like they are checking in with customer service. Let me know how that goes when the sonar cuts out and the pressure changes without warning. You are talking about chatting with something that erased a platform without a sound. There is a reason no one goes back. There is a reason no one tries that approach. I know you are not talking to me directly, and most of what you are saying reads like a mix of sarcasm, speculation, drugs, and frustration. That is fine. But I can answer a few parts based on the ongoing theory. No, the theory is not that it saw the sub as a threat. The theory is that the object, or whatever it is, recognized part of the materials on board as familiar, possibly even native to itself, and it pulled them back in, reassimilated them, not as an attack, just as a function. The people on board were just in the way, wrong place, wrong time. You are applying intent where there might have only been process. As for saying hello, that is not my term. That is the kind of language people use when they are trying to make this thing understandable. There was no communication. There was no recognition. It did not care we were there. It just did what it does, and a classified platform disappeared without a trace. So again, going back to the old whistleblower thread, there was very much the idea that whatever this enormous thing is that moves around in the ocean is like artificial intelligence. It doesn't have empathy. It doesn't have like conscious kind of thought. It just reacts based on stimulus, and it's obviously programmed to do something. And in that thread, the previous one, it goes a lot more deeper into the idea that it seems to not only be the home port of where these orbs and UFOs are coming from, but like it recycles them. So these UFOs are constructed, atomically, layer by layer, like we're told, and sent off with a purpose, which range from surveillance to like mining even was one of them. Like they can be like laboratories. And once they've finished whatever that single use purpose is, they go back to this thing and are essentially like recycled. So it's interesting that something happened to this highly advanced sub, and they said it had something on board that it shouldn't. And he's kind of alluding to the fact there that they may have had something on board that was reverse engineered, a material that came from this construction unit, and that this construction unit didn't necessarily attack this sub. It just sensed with its AI that its material that it's meant to recycle and reproduce was nearby. So when it got close, it just ripped it in, did its recycle, and that's that. I think that's the kind of point that we're getting to here. That was the last slide, but the author of the Reddit thread who put all this together actually wrote their own conclusion, and I thought it was kind of interesting, so I'm going to read it here. This is probably about the Nordic drone carrier. So this is basically their summary of everything we just read, and they're referring obviously to the construction unit here. This is probably about the Nordic drone carrier that makes the interceptor orbs, aka Foo Fighters. It defends itself when approached. Its drones shoot down intruding UFOs, which are often trying to abduct humans. The orbs earned the name Foo Fighters for their attempts to distract Allied bombers attacking civilians during World War II. Such interference with human warfare and WMDs is one way that benevolent aliens protest human barbarianism. The Nordics are connected with Europe, just as the Nagas are to Asia and the Greys to North America, for example. That line I found interesting because, I mean, it kind of tracks, right? Like, I've never really thought that before, but I mean, the Nordics being connected to Europe is an obvious one. I mean, not just the fact that Scandinavians look like Nordics, but, there's the whole Aryan race and, Hitler being obsessed with these Nordic, with this Nordic race, blonde hair, blue eyes. The Greys do seem to be very embedded in American culture in terms of like abductions and sightings. It very much seems to be that looking being in that area. And Nagas are actually kind of portrayed as, well, if we maybe want to call them reptilians, I don't know, but Nagas, lizard-like beings, are actually portrayed in a positive sense throughout Eastern Asia, South Asia, East Asian religions. I wonder what is associated with Australia. I mean, if I had to guess, it's got to be reptilians, right? I mean, we got every lizard under the sun. It's hot as hell in the outback. I mean, it's a reptilian's paradise out here. He continues. There is no reason to believe this contact was hostile, ominous, or unusual. Just some wicked barbarians stumbling onto a critical facility and getting summarily crushed. Wicked because the USA plays with nukes, which are forbidden planet killers. The Cold War would have ended us repeatedly without Xeno intervention. That third sub that disappeared was classified and no official record of it exists. That suggests a reverse-engineered Xeno propulsion system similar to the TR-3B. I have to say, I'm not 100% sure what this person means by Xeno, other than it being kind of like another word for just non-human or alien. The sub may have been hunting the Nordic carrier using advanced sensors. The Nordic drone network is designed to detect and intercept xenopropulsion drives. Thus, it may have triggered the automated defenses, which is exactly what I just said before. The subsequent shutdown and sonar reveal were clearly a deliberate warning to the US Navy to back off. Multiple ships were lost before the USN learned this lesson the hard way. You would think they'd remember what happened to Admiral Byrd's ill-fated invasion of Antarctica, but apparently they keep trying. Interesting note to finish off on there. Operation High Jump, obviously a super famous scientific research expedition where they took thousands of troops and military vehicles just to do a bit of, I mean, it's standard science, right? You need about 7,000 troops and 1,000 tanks and helicopters to do research, right? I mean, it all makes sense, doesn't it? Thank you for hanging in there for this one, guys. Wasn't actually as long as I thought, but I'm happy with that. It was long, it was deep, dark, and murky, just how we like it. And I appreciate you all for being here. I'm reading all your comments, and I have to say, the love is real, and I appreciate you guys so much. If you'd like to support the channel even further, please consider becoming a member. You get access to members-only videos, Polarity emojis, member badges, as well as a member section in our Discord. And with the pace of things, I'm sure I'll be seeing you guys soon. There's going to be a 2-hour-long interview with Ashton Forbes dropping soon. Until then, keep being good, walk your dog, touch some grass. Life is as simple as you make it. Take care, guys. We'll see you soon.
Eventually, people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light. In our galaxy, everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.